So we're going to today we are going to dedicate most part of our lecture about a document that is integral part of the drawings that we make, the technical drawings that we are going to be making this semester. Yeah, the technical drawings that we make usually as well known as working drawing. Am I clear or is there disturbance in what you hear?
Clear.
Yeah, yeah, I'm clear. There's no disturbance, right? Okay. So you have to understand that there is this entire process where an architect is going to engage a contractor to be in a position to build the building for yourself as well as the client is called as the tender document. The tender document usually comprises of 3 to 4 parts to it, 4 parts to it in sense. One is the contract. Yeah. What is the contract? The contract is a legal document that binds yourself, the contractor, and the client uh, with certain with certain kind of conditions or under certain legalities. Okay, so a normal document, a normal legal document that says that the three of you all have signed the document on this very date, and it has various other aspects on the basis of which you have engaged the contractor. Okay, we'll come to it a little later because things that are part of the tender are going to be mentioned in the contract document. So this overall tender document or this overall tender contract is going to have one aspect is the legal contract. I hope you've understood what it is. It's usually a certified document. When I mean to say it's a certified document, I mean to say that it's on stamp paper, there is a witness, and the architect usually acts as a witness. Other than that, it's actually a tender document between the contractor and the client. Don't forget, it is a very important document for both the client and the contractor, considering there is any dispute between the two of them. Yeah. So that's one part to it. Neeraj, go to the slide. Next slide. Is this what we've written and earlier? Yes. No, we've come directly to the tender. Okay. So then there is the other aspect is the other aspect of the tender of this document is the tender. The tender in that sense is it gives the clear picture of the financial implication that the project is going to have. That means it is going to be so to say, it is going to have the financials. Okay, how much you're going to spend on what item and things like that. Okay, so it has what is called as the bill of quantities and it has the specifications. So a tender has and usually a tender is before it is given to a contractor, it is floated. Okay, so suppose the project that you're working on is more or less design wise finalized and you have prepared the tender. Okay, then you ask the client on how would you like to float the tender. Okay. Now, what do I mean by floating tender is how do you invite the tender? How do you want it to be an open tender? You must have read in the newspapers, tenders are usually floated in newspapers. Okay, this particular government is not in a position to give the contract to any particular person. It can be considered to be, it can be considered to be biased. It can be considered not to be right. So usually what happens is that the government usually gives its tenders, invitation for its tenders in its newspapers. So you must have seen invited tenders. There are advertisements that are there. So the advertisement usually doesn't have the entire tender. What it says is that this particular work is at offer for this particular price, approximately this price, and contractors who have worked under So the contractor, not anybody can go and apply for it. Contractors who have worked with this kind of margins or this kind of work packages or this kind of particular works, okay, need to approach our office, pay for the tender document, yeah, pay for the tender document and get it filled. Okay, so that's called as an open tender. What does an open tender mean? A tender which is open to one and all to fill. Okay, so I can also fill, Neeraj can fill, Inslee can fill, anybody can fill, and the tenders are for all kinds of services. In our field, may need not be only for contracts, for contractors, it can be even for architects. Government floats tenders for architectural services. Yeah. So an open tender is one whereby not a particular person is called in. Okay. And that's the other one, selective or limited tender. Selective and limited tender is where uh, your contractor says that mine is your architect, your client says that ours is a small project. We don't need to go and give an open tender in the newspaper. We need to just identify some very good contractors who are known in the market. At such point of time, you as an architect can always suggest, or the client himself can suggest that yes, this is a contractor very well known to me, or this is a contractor whose work was done and I've seen the quality is done for our friend, and I see his work is very well done, something like that. You invite the contractor to fill in the you invite the contractor to fill in the tender. Yeah. And but naturally you don't want him to quote anything under the sun. Yeah. What you do is you have a competitive, you invite competitive tenders. That means you get usually three or more tenders from three or more different persons, such that you are able to do a comparative to know whether the rates quoted by any of your contractors is right. Yeah. If you don't do that, and most contractors know that clients and architects do that, that's the only way. Okay. For a government purpose, it is a must that the three tenders are floated. And in government, it is a must that the contract is usually awarded to the person who quotes the lowest. Yeah. So the lowest quote. That may need not be the same in private contracts or private contract. In a private contract, you may be selective in who you'd want to give work. You may be selective in who you want to invite to give work. Okay. So, but naturally, you won't call someone from Delhi if you want to do a work in Bombay. You'll perhaps know of, so you'll perhaps inquire who does good work for a factory or who does work for a good commercial complex. If you're making a bungalow, what kind of who is a contractor who has that kind of, you usually invite a contractor to work based on the kind of resources he has. Yeah, some contractors are very good with labor, some contractors are very good with equipment, some contractors are very good with managing sites. Huh? I'm telling you, managing sites itself is a very, very important thing. Let me tell you, a site on the road can pose huge problems for a contractor. Yeah, there are all kinds of there are all kinds of people who come and ask for permissions, a lot of extortion, a lot of a lot of interference with daily work. Yeah, and contractors also do flout norms to a certain extent. Sometimes the trucks are parked on their road, sometimes the material is dumped on the road, sometimes the roads are dirty, sometimes there is debris falling out of the trucks while the trucks leave the site. So you need a contractor who can manage a site on the main road. This is vis-a-vis a site that may be somewhere inside where anybody may be able to work. So there are various aspects on the basis of which a contractor may be identified. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that a part of the document which is called as a tender, yeah, comprises of so go ahead, Neeraj, let's look at whether we've yeah. So yeah. So what are the components of the tender?
I'll
It
just
comprises.
forward it to
Yeah.
you, just see which slides we have. So
No, no, not an issue. We can play that. I am very well aware. I think one odd slide here that will not make much of a difference. Not issue. So if we look at our, so I just spoke about from the bottom, the form of agreement, yeah, yeah, and we've sort of the form of the tender. It comprises of the bill of quantities, okay, and usually the tender document comprises of the specifications, which have which have the general requirements of the project that are there, and what is the kind of workmanship and material that is used, the drawing and the and that's there, and that comprises of the entire tender document. Yeah. So a tender document, as if I just told you earlier, people have to pay for it. Why? Because the tender document turns out to be a really hefty document. Yeah, maybe I recently did a government tender project. It had as good as 2000 pages to it. Yeah, 2000 pages to it. Yeah, it has all kinds of specifications from the NBC, National Building Code. Yeah, so all the specification right from soil qualities to concrete to all of them. And then if you're doing it for the government, then there are what is called as government approved specifications for the kind of material. You have to include that at all, otherwise, the contractor can prove that he was never aware of it, and so and then it comprises of the agreement, that is the main contract, then the bill of quantities where your figures are there. Yeah, so what is the bill of quantities? The bill of quantities usually, so we'll come to that, that is there, and the drawing. Yeah, and the drawing which actually tells the contractor what actually he is to build. A contractor cannot quote for any project if he is not able to see whether the building is curvilinear, whether the building is rectangle, how high is the building, how spread the building is, what is the material there of the. So the entire set of drawings need to be made not when the construction is going on, but when the tender document is uploaded. Okay, so all drawings that are part of the construction are more or less part of the tender document. Now, if you have a set of so many drawings, if you have a large set of specifications, yeah, this tender document needs it's money for production. Okay, and no, and the client is not very keen to unnecessary float tender documents for the heck of it. So usually a 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 money is paid by the contractor to purchase the document. It's like a small investment that he's making. He makes a small investment in order to know his prospects, whether he can bag this particular project. Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah. So usually as part of the before you make the tender, but naturally the architect has the responsibility of fixing these four things very clearly. Is one is the is he's going to be planning exactly. He's going to be planning exactly how he intends to get the work done. Yeah. Uh, all kind of, and what is the selection criteria for the for inviting the tender or selecting the contractor. Usually the contractor is selected on two bases. Usually a tender, when he fills in the tender, he fills it in sealed envelopes and submits it. It is on two bases that a contractor is identified. First is on the kind of resources he has. So the first of the document actually talks about whether the contractor, what kind of works is done, what kind of manpower is there with him, what are the kind of resources there that is there, what are the kind of projects he has done, what is the scope of the projects that is done. All of this is in envelope A. Okay, that is to whether to make him eligible for such a project. And envelope B actually has the costing of the project, the budgeting of the project, as it is said. Yeah. So these are two criteria under which a tender is invited from a contractor. Yeah. One on the basis of which his capabilities, his resources. Okay. So he will be in a position to say he has so many site, he has so many engineers under him, he has so many site supervisors, so many skilled laborers, so many unskilled laborers. He'll talk to you about the kind of warehouses he has, godowns that he has, okay, and to the very nitty-gritty of how many pumps he has or how many what is the kind of equipments that he has, okay. Vehicles, he may say that I may have 5 trucks, 2 JCPs, dumpers, you know, uh, all kinds of equipment that is required. It or talks this kind of material stock actually gives an impression of the amount of work such a contractor has been doing and is capable of managing, that is there. Yeah, he will largely talk about the kind of centering work that he has. What do I mean when I say shuttering work? That means if he has to make large slabs, then does he have adequate amount of shuttering or adequate amount of formwork to be able to cast large areas of slabs together? Yeah, so that's one aspect. That is one aspect on the basis of which you decide. Yeah, so if your work is of a crore, yeah, then you but naturally will not try to take a contractor who's done a 10 lakh job, okay, because he will not have the capacity to invest money for a job that is of a crore, okay. So if a similarly if the project is of 10 crores, you cannot take a contractor who's done work for a crore. Okay, so usually contractors are invited based on the kind of investments they have been associated with projects. Okay, and this such large a 10 crore project will require that kind of manpower. Yeah, and an architect will have no sooner than later have the capacity to know whether this contractor is good enough to manage such kind of a scope of work. Yeah, the next is but naturally the budgeting. What does the budgeting mean? You cannot afford to invite a tender or you cannot afford to invite a quote from any contractor without you having actually done a quote yourself, without you having actually estimated the quote yourself. Yeah, you cannot afford to tell your contractor, you cannot afford to tell your client that our bungalow is just going to be of a crore. Okay, and when the contractor fills in the tender, it should not come to be 5 crores. Yeah, it would be ridiculous. Your client would be very upset with you to understand to have to know that your understanding of the market rates or your understanding of the project is completely haywire to what that the contractor is quoting. Okay, in order that you don't go wrong drastically, okay, what do? You usually fill in the tender yourself. You fill in the rates and you see what is the estimated cost of the project, though you are not going to do it considering you are the architect, but you are in the right position first of all to provide the right picture to your client. Point number one. Point number two is that, yeah, point number two is that in case in case the figure that you receive from the contractor goes haywire, then you know exactly where he has gone wrong. You can do a comparison. Yeah. So if you do a comparison between his concrete works and your concrete works, and you see that his concrete works rates are higher, that is why the entire project cost is going haywire. Yeah, you can sit with him and discuss with him of why his rates are so particularly high. Something like that. Yeah. So it becomes necessary for you to budget the project yourself. Yeah. Before you invite any tender from any contractor. Then the next is the specification. Yeah. You it all depends upon the kind of material you use. Yeah, you could have a floor tile, okay, that could be 30 rupees. You could have a floor tile that could be 300 rupees. Okay, so there is a great amount of variety in the kind of there's a great amount of variety in the rate based on the quality of the work that we do. Yeah, based on the quality of the material we decide to choose. Okay, everything, right from a brick to the plaster to the paint, wiring, yeah, for every switch, for every hinge, for even nails, everything that is used on site can be of various qualities. If you do not mention about them, then this could be a great area for disputes. Yeah. So if you don't mention, then the contractor could land up using inferior material. It may not be to the liking of your, and it would be impossible to tell the contractor that you put is inferior, please remove it, and I'm not going to pay you for it. It's not going to be possible. There'll be a fight. There'll be a big dispute. Yeah, project will go for a haul, client will fire you, he may even sue you. Yeah, suing the architect is a very, very common thing. Yeah, because architects do not take their job seriously at times. And specifications is the area where most of the times things go wrong. Yeah, so if you don't have your facts right, if you don't know your materials right, if you don't know how your process is right, yeah, if you don't know how deep you need to dig for a foundation, you mentioned it's a different depth in your tender, whereas your engineer wants you to dig to a very different depth to be able to do the foundation, your project will go haywire at the very first step. Yeah, so there are various aspects of material processes that need to be clearly mentioned such that you, your client, and your contractor, all the three of them are on the same page. Yeah, if not, there can be a lot of disputes that is there. Yeah, and either between you and your client or between the contractor and the client, considering, yeah, considering based on, so suppose if I suppose I have a, yeah, if I have switches, yeah, I could have an Indian switch as simple as an Anchor Roma switch. I could have an imported switch. The difference in the cost would be exorbitant and could completely skew the understanding of the budget of the project. Yeah, that is that. And then last of all, which is very important, is the time frame and the deadline. Yeah, should you be able to control the deadline and time frame of the project? Should you be in a position to control the cost of the project? Don't forget, cost and time are directly related to each other. Should there be delay in projects, you can clearly understand that there is going to be cost escalations to the project. And you are not going to be paying for it. Somewhere or the other, the contractor is going to make the most of it is going to make the most of it from the client. So keeping deadlines, keeping time frames is an important part that you need to first work upon before you actually float the tender. Yeah, Neeraj. So as I said earlier, the process of tendering usually depend is on invitation of bids from by publishing the tender. Yeah, that's an open tender. If you want to, if you want to get you if you want anybody and everybody, or yeah, to or you want you don't know if you're not very if yeah, then you may invite the tender by publishing the tender in well-known newspapers. Yeah, then the submission of the bid. Yeah, then the contractor has enough time for to study the documents, study the drawings, bid for the tender and submit it. Okay, usually there is a submission deadline. The tender document itself says, kindly pick up the tender which costs at this and this price from this and this address by this and this date, and the submission of the tender is expected to happen before this date, this time. Yeah, to be fair to all, you give a deadline, and that happens. And then there is a tendering opening and evaluation process. Yeah, your client may be involved, your engineers may be involved, you may be involved. All these single tenders that you received are first open under two various different criteria. As I told you earlier, the first criteria is on the basis of the capability of the person to do the work. The second criteria is, but naturally, the cost at which the contractor is ready to do the work. So based on that, these tenders are opened and they are evaluated. They're compared. That's what I call by evaluation. They're compared with each other to know who is high, who is low. It is high by how many percentage, whether it is worth it to work with such a person or not. Yeah, whose rates may be higher, whose rates may, sometimes the difference in the rates is extensive. Yeah. And you actually wonder whether you should be working with the lowest quoted rate, since the rate is, there is such a difference in the rate that is quoted. Sometimes the rates are comparable. At such point of time, it becomes very easy to just negotiate with the person you want to work with. Sometimes the person you want to work is, the rates are very high, and you actually get second thoughts whether he's the right person to work with, considering the rates are so high, and take the project to a completely new high level. You need to sit and negotiate. Yeah. So so as I told you, the tender evaluation process usually comprises of what is the technical bid submission, financial bid submission. Yeah. Then you award the tender. Yeah. Awarding the tender is, you finally take decisions with your client of who would you finally like to work with. Yeah. There are various criterias for that. Yeah. So the technical bid is what's the first criteria, to know the standing of the contractor, the actual capability of the contractor. The other is the financial. If your projected finances, yeah, you had earlier done a projection of the finances. If your estimated budget as the architect and the estimated budget of the contractor, if they match, then you know that you're working with the right kind of person who thinks similarly like you think. Yeah, that a project of this area should cost so much. Yeah, don't forget, usually cost of projects depend upon the area of the project and the kind of specifications you want to use for the project, and the kind of material you want to use for the project. A grade, B grade, C grade, whatever that is there. Based on these two things, yeah, you should be in a position to decide whether the awarding to the tender can be there, and then, but naturally there is enough time given to the contractor so that he can decide how, as and when he can come on the site and set up his, yeah, set up his infrastructure and take over the site to do work. Yeah, let's go ahead. So now, so now in order to fill the tender document, yeah, in order to fill the tender document, there is the tender document usually not only comprises of, first of all, comprises of the specifications on the basis of which he has to quote. Now, most of the time we are aware of the first type of specification, that is material and installation specific. Yeah, material and installation specification is usually comprising of what material is to be used and how it is to be applied. Yeah, like you need to know what is the content of the cement plaster, whether it is at one, and how it is to be applied. What is the content of the paint and how it is to be applied? What is the content of the tile and how it is to be applied? Something like that. The other one at times is a design specification. Sometimes there are works whose design, actually the design is so specific that it actually governs the rate that it needs to be that it needs to be quoted for. Yeah, just imagine if you have to do a tiling work with a very intricate design, infill work, inlay work, and things like that. It cannot be quoted at the same way of just doing normal tiling work. Yeah, so it's design related. The specification is very design specific. Yeah, because there are so many patterns and because there is so much of inlay work, and there's going to be the amount of effort that is going, the amount of time and material that is going to do that kind of job vis-a-vis the job that is in the conventional manner, the rates will be much different. The third will be of what is called as a performance specification. Performance specification is where you want a particular area to perform in a particular. This is largely with regards to insulation. Yeah, like insulation. You want a particular area to be able to remain hot or cold in a particular temperature or in a particular setting, and it is performance oriented. Yeah, if you want a particular space to, like if a particular job expects you to have a performance, an acoustical performance of a particular order, Yeah. Then, yeah. So all there are areas where you'd want where there is, yeah, where you'd want, yeah, like you have these, you have areas where there is a lot of noise. You have, yeah, so they check reverberation time. Yeah, all these things are checked. Yeah, so the speakers are sounded off. Like I know of a my colleague of mine who was to give up the performance related specification for the airport. Okay, and they had to do cross checks for acoustics at the airport for the kind of clarity in the noise that can be heard when the announcements are made, and to how long should the sound be in the air and how well it gets absorbed. Yeah, and whether there is disturbance when flights are taking off, whether the so to say, whether the announcements can be heard, all kinds of things. Yeah, suppose you have an air conditioned space and you'd want to see to what extent the place cools, how, what are the losses of air conditioning, how long can the cooling be maintained. So some performance, and all kinds of buildings have various kinds of requirements. Some buildings for heating, some buildings for cooling, some for fire. Fire performance is a very important thing. A fire contractor will always be judged for his performance specification. Their fire rating door, whether it's for half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, yeah, to keep the fire out. That's the performance specification. Then there are standard specifications, yeah, that are given in the NBC, yeah, very standard specifications that are there. They may go with the idea of the first material and installation specification. And test and quality specifications is something that is used largely for technical and specialized areas that are there, where you actually test the quality. Yeah, this is like for road works. Yeah, when road works are done, then the test qualities are conducted for road works before they are approved for, yeah. So so, yeah, you test the so to say surfaces, yeah. Like in an industrial area, you have floorings that are laid. You test to see whether it's able to take that kind of wear and tear before you decide the project to be approved, or before you decide the work to be have been considered as complete. Yeah. So now, on one hand of the bill of quantities, yeah, on one hand on the bill of quantities is the specifications that are given, yeah, that is the description of the material and how you'd want to get it done. That is given on one hand. On the other hand is what you have is the figures, yeah, the figures that actually say whether the figures that would actually say whether you'd want to get the work done at what cost. Yeah. So some of them is, as Neeraj has rightly written, some of them are in lump sum. Yeah. What do we mean by lump sum? Some works are so insignificant, but they need to be done that you'd want to pay a lump sum for that. Yeah. I'll give you an example. The first of the lump sum that we usually deal on is of clearing of our site. Okay, clearing of our site. Suppose our plot, when the contractor takes over, will have grass on it, boulders here and there, a little bit of unleveling, yeah, trash out there. All he may have to do is clear the site, clear the site. Okay, there may not be actual a cost for doing it. He may just quote for you at lump sum. He may take a 10,000 or a 20,000 rupees or a 5,000 rupees, or may take no money at all just to clear the site. Suppose there's long grass, you cannot access your site at all. You don't know, there may be snakes there may be any kinds of things that are there. Clearing the site is an important thing. It may be something very insignificant, but you may need to pay for it. It may be quoted for lump sum and things like that. Yeah. There are some things that are quoted for in volume. Yeah. What is quoted in volume? Numerous things. Concrete is quoted in volume. Yeah, a lot of concrete is concrete columns, concrete beams, a lot of concrete, PCC, a lot of it is quoted in volume. Water tanks are quoted for in volume because they hold volumes of or liters of water. So the capacity of a tank, yeah, is quoted by way of volume. Then the very important ones, the very common ones is quoted by area. Most of the items are quoted by area. Area of wall surface for painting, area of wall surface for plaster, area of wall surface for floor, area for flooring. All these are areas. Most items are quoted for in area. Yeah. The next come in volume, and then the most important is there are some in numbers. Yeah. But naturally, type number of tube lights, number of fans, number of basins, commodes, number of chairs, number of windows, number of doors. Some of the costing is done in numbers. Yeah. So a large part of the costing, the large parts of the estimation is done under numbers. Some are done on running length. Some things in length is more important, like wire in running length is important. Pipes is measured in running length. Yeah. Skirting is at times measured in running length. Yeah. So some items other than may not be possible to measure in square meters or square feet, that is area, may be in running length. Some of them is done by weight. Some of the quote is by weight. How much by weight? Like there are like metal. A lot of metal work that may be done on site is always quoted in kgs. For all iron work, all reinforcement for your RCC works, all of that is quoted in weight. Some works are quoted for by way of job. Yeah. A particular job needs to be done in a particular way. Yeah. Maybe a specialized work. Yeah. And accordingly, it may be quoted as per the job. In some sense, it may be very close to what we are saying is it may be quoted under lump sum. Yeah? That means it has a fixed amount based on the kind of the job that you'd want to have it done. And the last is again by either by way of number of units or by numbers, yeah, like students in a hostel or a school or hospital, yeah. Based on the numbers, again you should be in a position to quote for. So the various units under which the quotes can happen preferably, yeah. Various units under which the quotes can happen. We'll see as we go high by, yeah. These are just things that we are introducing you. Yeah, go ahead.
This one is the last one.
Okay. Then do we have a sample of the tender or
Uh, Check. I don't think so.
otherwise I have it on my mail. I can take a break
They
and
got
I can, yeah, yeah, I'll do that.
okay, then share.
Okay. Before I open my mail and download that, is there anybody who has any doubts? Sure. Till in up to whatever we've explained till now, I've had a lull silence, though I thought people had always had the opportunity to, so to say, interrupt in between. But is there anybody who has any doubt? I have. Yes, Shravan, go ahead.
So when the contractor gives a quote, he is obviously going through the bill of quantities and giving the quote, right? And my
Yes.
working drawing. So because I remember you had given the example of them using inferior tiles or even more expensive tiles, and that upsets the budget. So won't that already be included in the quote the contractor is giving me? Like if he gives me a quote for let's say 2 crore, then he cannot use more expensive tiles and offset that budget to 3 crore, right? I mean,
Mhm.
obviously tiles won't take it to 3 crore unless it's like a very big floor. But
Okay.
how does that like because then I have even if I have made that error in the working drawings, then his quote is still reflecting 2 crore, right?
I'm not getting your question. What is your question?
So right, if the budget so if the budget goes over because
Mhm.
of an error in the working drawing,
Mhm.
does it go over and above the quote as well in that case, or does the quote not include the material costs but just the labor and other intensive costs and the uh, I'm sorry, because that's a bit confusing on the part of who decides the final
See, first,
budget.
see, listen to me, listen to me. The tender or the quote is a reflection of your drawing. Okay. Whatever you've drawn in the drawing, it usually reflects in the quote, unless you've made a mistake. Suppose in the drawing you have 10 fans, that is exactly what is going to reflect in the quote 10 fans. Now, what type of fan were you expecting vis-a-vis what kind of fans did he get? There could be a dispute there. That's why it is necessary that you mention in there that I would want to have ISI brand, either Crompton slash 2, 3 company names you usually write to give. Then what happens is that the level of doubt between you and the contractor is never. Are you getting it?
Yeah, so basically, if I don't put it in the working drawing, then he'll write 600, and I was thinking what fans he'll put. He'll put cheaper fans and charge extra. Is that the case then?
It could be
Or
all. It could be one that you miss out on something. Yeah, one thing that you can miss out on something. The other thing is that the brand may not be there, and there could either be one is on the numbers, the other it could be on the brand.
right. So if the code seems off, that means my working drawing which I've made a mistake. If the
If
code
the
seems
code,
wrong. If
if
the
the
code
code,
seems wrong to what I estimated, that means there could be an error in the working drawing.
yes, if the code seems wrong, that there are times that what is in the drawing does not reflect in the code. Sometimes there is what is in the code does not reflect in the drawing. Both kinds of things is possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody, anything else?
Yeah, I had a doubt. So, when we have prefabricated members in the structure and we have to be in direct contact with the manufacturing unit, so where does the testing of the material, the cost and the strength of the material come into picture? And how is it related to the contractor?
I, when you have prefabricated materials, then you said what?
And we have to be in contact with the manufacturing unit as well to know,
Okay,
the strength, the cost, the testing of the
okay,
material. So
okay. Then
where does that process come in while we are making the tender? And how do we relate that with the contractor?
see if you're going in for prefabricated works or something like that, and he himself is your contractor. The person
Oh,
who's making the person who's making the person who's making the, or there could be subcontracts within your main contract. Okay, like I'll tell you, there could be one main contractor who may be maybe quoting for civil works, electrical works, plumbing works, all of them. If the project is so large, sometimes that each of these are projects in themselves, then you make separate subcontractor into each one of them. So you make a separate subcontractor to only the plumbing. Yeah, to one plumbing contractor who manages only plumbing. And in big projects, it happens like that. A plumbing contractor, even if for a normal contractor, his plumbers are different. The only thing is that he's coordinating in doing that. In your case, when the project is so big and there are various different kind of contracts, the only problem comes about coordination. Yeah. So if in case you have some specialized contractor like that, if you say of prefabricating, then but naturally when every project, every contractor that you involve, whether is the main contractor or subcontracting, that is the quality is has to be ensured as part of the contract document that you make. So the first contract document that you make is clearly writes that you cannot afford to have it. Yeah, it very clearly says you cannot afford to mess up on the quality of the time delivery, no exaggerated cost, no extra cost. Okay, all kinds of insurance that you have to take. Yeah, all kinds of insurance to see that there is no damage on site, there is no third party damage, there is no loss of life of people under which you can be. This is a very important part. Safety is a very important part on site. If someone falls from above and dies, your client, you, your contractor, all of y'all can be spending the night in jail or multiple nights in jail. The project can come to a standstill. At such times, paperwork, such document is very, very important. Yeah, it is important that they be able to, it is important that you are able to see that, third party insurance, site insurances, workmen labor compensation, all these aspects of being able to keep the contractor or to get to be able to safeguard your so to say safeguard your rights or safeguard your well-being, yeah, or what would you call safeguard your, is very important. They are all part of the contract. They are all very much part of the contract. Yeah? It's a legal document that your lawyer helps you to make. Yeah, that your client's lawyer, you as an architect, and the contractor is late, and the contractor goes through it thoroughly. He sees whether in any way the contract is not against him. There can be many a times clients can be very clever to be in a position to see that they would want to put clauses whereby the contractor is caught defaulting. Yeah. So it should not be so on either side. It should not be so that the contract is made so weak that the contractor gets away with a lot of fraud, yeah, or the client loses out on something. Similarly, the contract cannot be such that at any instance the client is getting the opportunity to sue the contractor and get money out of him. And the architect is the best judge there to see that the contract is balanced, that the contract safeguards the rights of both the person who wants to work as well as the person who wants performance. Are you getting it? So contracts are always made. If you give one single contract to one contractor under which all these works are there, it may be just one contract. If you are subcontracting, yeah, so you subcontract for precast works, then quality control, delivery, everything it comes in the contract automatically. I subcontract for civil, I subcontracting for precast, I subcontracting for perhaps electrical works, plumbing works, yeah, all kinds of works that are there usually on site. Yeah, and it becomes painting, all these are people with various skill sets. Okay. So HVAC, all these kind of people are different. The only thing is that then you need coordination, and that's why then you have people who are called as project managers. They then step into the project. When such projects are large, architects are not able to do the needful, or architects lift up their hand. Then a new kind of people have taken opportunity these days, and these are project managers. Project managers then come in only to see whether they can keep everybody on their toes to get the projects completed on site. And architects then don't like them because they are bossy. They tell architects that your drawings have not come on time, you are not doing your bit. They put everybody in their place. Yeah, project coordinators or project consultants, project management consultants. Yeah. So in that sense, uh, you could have one contract, you could have multiple contracts. Whoever you work with, you can be made answerable. That is there. Yeah. Anybody else?
Are managers involved in the type of contract which is basically where the architect is only responsible for the initial design and drawings, and after that someone else has to handle the actual construction? Is that the kind of contract they set up? Like, I'll just sell my design with the drawings to you, and you manage, and the client will manage however he wants, get whoever he wants to make sure it's realized. Is that the kind of project where you get a project manager, or the architect is still involved with the project manager when the project manager is on site?
It can be all kinds of setup. You find all these foreign architects who just send in the design, and then their involvement is very at the very upper level. Yeah, they don't get into the nitty-gritty. You see now, you have projects that are executed by projects that are done by Singapore firm. Okay, Now that project will then come to an Indian architect, will come to the client. The client will then endorse that work to an Indian architect. Indian architect will go about making all the working drawings, making all the drawings for submission, getting permissions, coordinating with all the contractors, all of that that is there. That architect may then not be involved. He may just coordinate with the Indian architect on only relevant things that may be asked to him. Are you getting it? So you can have all kinds of positions for architects that are there. Most architects have done that and have lost control of their projects in that sense. So it's not the ideal way of doing it, but it all depends upon how your involvement may be there. If you portray that you're only a design architect and don't get into making the working drawings and making drawings for municipal, so to say, approval, and coordinating with various contractors and project managers, then you may be kept out of it and you may just get paid for the design that you do, which may be a bare minimum.
Thank you.
Anybody, anything else? Everybody's clear by these. So we'll go step by step. Yeah. So first of all is before. So is everybody clear about the contents of the tender document? The tender document will have the agreement between the client, the contractor, and the architect. Yeah, usually it is between the contractor and the client. The architect, in some sense, is in some sense like a referee or a person who is there to manage is in some sense is a witness to the project. Yeah. Then you have the form and the conditions of the contract. Yeah. So the conditions and the form of the contract actually talk of how you want the project to be executed. Yeah. In what, as you rightly said, what is the sole estimate of the project? What are the kind of specifications you'd like to have? What is the deadline of the project and what is the estimate of the project? Then you have what is called as a blank bill of quantities. Blank bill of quantities looks something like this. Yeah, a bill of quantities looks something like this. Okay, on one hand is the serial number, the description of the items, or what you call as the specifications that are written here very clearly. It has the quantities, yeah, how much area that is to be there, the unit areas, the rate and the amount. Yeah, this comprises of what is called as the bill of quantities. Yeah, and usually it comprises and it writes in detail all aspects of the work that is there. Look at the first aspect that is there. Provide and erecting at site conventional single bamboo scaffolding to reach the place of work, covering the same with hyson cloth. You know the hyson cloth, the green cloth that you see, so that the debris does not fall off. Dismantling and taking away completion work inclusive of all necessary safety measures. Yeah. The entire area of the bamboo scaffolding is around 25,000 square foot. Yeah. That's the rate that is expected. That's the work that is. This is another one. Carefully removing all layers of plaster, damaged plaster. This is the kind of work I do. I do restoration works. So this is part of my tender. Yeah. So that's the kind of work. In your case, it will be much, much different. Yeah. Your items will start from much different. Carefully removing all layers of plaster, damaged balusters, other dismantling, etc., and cutting away the debris from site. How much square foot? So many. That would be the rate. That would be the amount. Providing and applying sand-faced plaster in the cement mortar ratio of 1:4 in 2 coats up to, look at the detailing that is given, up to 25 mm thickness using reverse sand with additional approved waterproofing compound to cement mortar as per the manufacturing specifications, curing complete. Just for a plaster work, look at the amount of specification that is given. First of all, it says that you have to provide what is the kind of plaster. It's a 2-coat external plaster. It talks about the ratio. It gives the thickness. It talks about the quality of sand. It talks what is the kind of waterproofing compound that is to be mixed. Yeah, and it talks that the plaster after complete has to be cured regularly. Yeah, yeah. These are the kind of specifications that you see. Yeah, look at this. This is like providing and laying waterproofing treatment in toilet bathrooms by way of, yeah, 150 mm thick brick bat coba along with waterproofing compound as per specification complete. So first it talks about how things are to be laid. It gives the sizes and it gives the material. A specification will always comprise of these three things. It will usually talk about the thickness or the kind of size. It will give then the material and then how it is to be laid preferably and how it is to be completed. Yeah, yeah. Providing and applying. Look at this. This providing and laying anti-skid floor tiles in toilet and bathroom laid to cement mortar. Yeah, in appropriate slope with joint filling curing complete. Now here the anti-skid floor tile company name or the sizes are not given. In order to be safe, it would be necessary that those given. So whether you'd want, whether you'd want branded tiles like that of Johnson, yeah, Kajaria, or yeah, things like that, yeah, branded tiles. Or you'd want to have Gujarat tiles, yeah, Gujarat made tiles. Gujarat made tiles are local made tiles, yeah, not so highly branded, but yet of very good quality, yeah. So you could mention of the kind of tiles that are there. You can mention the size. Accordingly, the contractor knows that what is the scope and which that is there. Most of the time, the rate of the tile is given here. The tile rate is usually expected to be so much. Is given in bracket. Yeah. Okay. Look at this. Providing and applying synthetic enamel paint. And this is the language in which the specification is written. Okay. And it is necessary that no sooner than later we learn to write this for each and every item of the things that we are going to do on site. So providing and applying synthetic enamel paint, 3 coats, yeah, of which 1 coat is a primer, 2 coats of enamel paint, including scaffolding for the stack as well, scraping and treating and surface complete, yeah, to the staircase well, balcony, door, window, grills, things like that. Yeah, so that's the kind of specification that, yeah, yeah. So that's the way. Usually the specifications are done using what are called as Excel sheets. We usually work with Excel sheets. Okay, and we usually deal with each of these items. Uh, we, we usually segregate the items. Yeah, like if you see here, these are plumbing works. If you see here, these are painting works. If you see here, these are civil works that are there. Yeah, so every tender will have various, yeah, various types of uh, various types of so to say sections in their bill of quant in their tender quant. So first would be civil items, then perhaps would be finishing items, then we perhaps would be woodwork, plumbing, fabrication works, all kinds of things that are there. Now the very important part to the document is this. Two parts to this tender document which are important is one is the writing of the specification, yeah, which no sooner than later we'll get into once we start looking into them. Yeah. I'm next time I have requested Neeraj if he is in a position to start with some of the items that are there to help you understand how to go about it. Yeah. But the most important is this, how this figure comes to you. This 25,000 square feet, 12,000 square feet. How do they come to you? How are you in a position to be able to compute that? And that for that you have what you have to make is called as a measurement sheet. Yeah. Now this measurement sheet is very important and I'll tell you why. The measurement sheet is can be your only way to safeguard from what Shravan was asking now. How does, if I have computed it right, Yeah, okay, and if I have written things rightly in the tender document, how is it that the cost of the project can yet go high? It can go high largely if you've not computed this area well. Yeah, if your quantification is not right, if your quantification increases drastically, then but naturally your project will go haywire. The rates don't change, but naturally if he's quoted for the rate, then he doesn't have the opportunity to change. But if you have not estimated properly, or and that is the time that is a problem, because you are estimating things on paper, there is a possibility that you miss out on things, and when you miss out on things, there is a possibility that those things can escalate as compared to what is done on site, and that's why you could lead up to losing money or escalation of cost. So in order to be able to keep a check of where you are going wrong or where the contractor is going haywire, you usually make what is called as a measurement sheet. What does this measurement sheet do? This measurement sheet ensures you to, yeah, first for you to be able to fill in. So suppose I am calculating plaster work. So my left side wall comprises of one. It has a length of so much, a breadth of so much, and a height of so much. It gives me an area of that much. I similarly, if I put down all the walls, wall, east side wall, west side wall, north side walls, south side wall. If I give my all walls, if I calculate all my areas, I know my actual plaster area should be 12,000 as given here. Is the same figure that you took here and you put here for 12,000 square feet. Now when the contractor makes the bill, yeah, and sends you, and he will also make a such a measurement sheet and send you. And if his so to say estimates, yeah, if his estimates or if his 12,000 is now 15,000 and yours is 12,000, then you have the great possibility of checking where things have gone wrong by going back to your measurement sheet and checking whether the length that you calculated as per the drawing, width and height, coincide with what he is written. If he is writing something differently, then you are in the possibility of checking and perhaps reducing or bringing to his notice such that your project can be kept under control and it does not escalate. Okay. So we will make this happy. We will make this we will make this we'll have this procedure of making a measurement sheet for all the items that we are going to measure. Okay, and our first of the items may be barricading. Yeah, we may go about just barricading our site. Okay, so suppose if we have to start off, our so I'm taking the opportunity and I hope everybody is writing. Suppose let us start off our bill of quantity, and if we are to start work, okay, what would you first go about doing? Can anybody tell me? Can anybody tell me if we had
The
to?
barricading.
Huh?
We will first measure the perimeter of the barricading or the length of it.
Yes. So first of all, you would want to, yes, exactly. So the first thing you'd perhaps want to do is that you'd want to go ahead by, where did the thing go? Is it here?
On left hand
No.
side, on left hand side. The taskbar
Oh,
is on left hand side. Yeah.
yes. Yes. So the first thing perhaps you'd have to, perhaps as here Shravan rightly said, you may have to go about barricading your site in order to avoid any kind of accidents. Okay. I have been witness to a site in my own colony that I was not part of as part of my project, It was poorly barricaded, and during the monsoon, children came and jumped into the dug foundation work, thinking it is a big pool, and a child was killed because there were foundation bars that were exposed below the water, and they jumped into the water thinking that this was a big pool of water and they could swim in it. So you could be in great trouble, big trouble. In the builder was in great trouble to be in a position to sort such things out. Okay, and he was pulled up for not being able to barricade and protect the site well. Okay, so you have to be protecting your own site is protect in some sense protecting yourself. So what do you do? So your first item will be, yeah, your first item will be, you may perhaps write first item barricading of site. So how will you write? Can Shravan, can you write in, you actually see here the language in which usually the specification is written. Can you help me writing the specification for a barricading of your site?
Like the actual text for it.
Yes,
It'll
you have
start
it
with
in front.
providing and erecting
Yes, providing and erecting.
barricade of a certain height and certain kind, like whether those blue and those black and yellow stripes kind of barricade. Are we talking about that kind of barricading?
Whatever you say, whatever best you know. Just
I don't
imagine
know
you
what.
have to do it. You have to do, you have to do it for your own site. So what would it be? Have you seen a barricading? What is it?
Yes, but I don't think this description is going to sound very professional. But providing
Okay.
providing and erecting barricading of 1.5-meter height,
No, that's
uh,
not good enough. 1.5 is too low.
3-meter height.
3 meters is 10 feet.
Slow.
Maybe, yes, maybe, yeah, maybe.
12 feet. 12 feet
Between
just to be clear.
2 and 3 meters. Yeah, so between 2 and 3 meters is good. Yeah, 2 meter or
Three.
2.5 meter high. MS, you have what is called as MS powder coated sheets,
Oh,
right?
those things. Okay, right. Providing and erecting 2.5-meter high MS powder coated sheet barricade around the perimeter of the site with sufficient entrance for what's the biggest
Yes,
thing that's going to avoid the site? Um, Vehicular transportation for carrying
exactly.
material.
Exactly. So you missed out on something. You missed out on what is
Joinery.
the barricading going to fit on? So it is going to
Uh,
fit on metal framework.
uh,
Okay. So providing and so is more or less right. Providing and erecting of 2.5 high site barricading made up of MS powder sheets, MS powder coated sheets fixed on a metal framework with appropriate provisions for a gate to allow to, uh, to allow vehicular traffic as well as wicket gate for personal movement, all made within site boundaries. Yeah, nothing projecting outside your site boundary.
and
Is
like
this?
the bamboo scaffolding, it'll have to be taken away on completion of work as well, right? Dismantled and taken away.
Yeah, and whatever. But this is the barricading that is going to remain more or less like all throughout your project till your project ends. No, usually they remain right till the project ends, unless you hand over the project. That is the time when you remove. Bottom line is everybody understanding it starts from there, right from barricading. What would be the next thing that would be there? Someone else? Let me also go to the teams so that I can now start picking names. Yes, who's the next person I see? Vatsal. Vatsal, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Vatsal, what do you think next you will do on your site?
Cleaning up of site.
Exactly. So how would you label, how would you frame the specification for cleaning of the site? Oh, sorry. I forgot. No, Vatsal, give me a break. Give me a break. I got carried away with Shravan in only writing the specification. Okay, Shravan, now you will get here to the site the quantity, and here you will have the unit. What would the unit be for barricading?
Feet.
No, square meter only. Yeah,
How
it will
square?
be
It's because it's bounding a certain area.
square meters. Yeah, it's going to be an area, right? You're going to be building an area. Okay, in
No.
order to build.
So if the area will be, let's say, if I have barricading in the shape of a square in plan, then that square ka area will be the
No, no,
quantity,
no, 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 no. You
or
will have
that thickness will be included of the
no,
barricade, and
no,
then that will
no,
be.
no, 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 no. Listen to me. What you will do here, perhaps if your site is square, right? So you will give the west side, east side, right side, all the lengths, right? All the lengths of your site. बराबर है? The perimeter, what you called as the perimeter of your site. You will give all the site lengths here, and you will give the height here. Length and height will give you the area. Is it clear? The
So
height is
imagine it
going,
as a flat surface.
the height is going to be constant, right? 2.5
Right.
meters. Your height is going to be constant. Your lengths are going to vary depending upon the perimeter of your site. You will multiply with the two, you will get an area. This area you will carry forward and bring it here. And that's why it is going to be in square meters, because it is in area. Is it clear to everybody? That means for every work that is done, you have to go ahead and fill the measurement sheet. Now, if the contractor bills you not for 12,000, not for 12,000 square feet of an area, or not for 25,000 square feet of an area, but for 30,000 of a square feet, all you need to do is cross check his measurement sheet with your measurement sheet to know where have things gone wrong. You will immediately gather either he's taken one of the lengths as wrong, or he's quoting the height as wrong, and immediately you can correct the measurement sheet and bring the project within control, or bring the costing within control. Is this clear to everybody? Yeah, is this clear to everybody? Nobody has any doubt? Yeah, everybody will have to be doing this. Deep, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You have understood this, what I did speak about?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. So Deep, if I have to go about doing cleaning of my site, okay. Now the contractor has barricaded the site. Now you would like to clean the site in order to start work. How would you go about framing the specification for cleaning the site? It should be very simple.
Um, I think like isn't it like it's workers, like how to say
Yes.
that?
So you will say providing labor
Providing labor for
to
this much certain amount
clear.
of area.
No, area तो you're going to write here, Ben. एरिया तो तुम यहाँ लिखने वाले हो, बराबर है? आपका साइट एरिया तो आप यहाँ पे लिखने वाले हो. You will say what are you going to, you want to use, first of all you have to make a decision whether you want him to use normal human beings to clear the site, you want him to use machinery to clear the site. What do you want?
Yeah, labor work, considering there will be amount of grass and not
Grass.
big.
Yeah. If you're not expecting boulders, and if you're not expecting debris, or if you're not expecting any encroachment, all kinds of things can be on site, huh? It all depends upon what earlier it could be entire buildings that are there. You want to demolish buildings or any kind of thing that may be there. Depending on that, you will say that you providing for labor or providing for machinery to clear the site of its whatever debris, of the grass, of by way of leveling, etc., to the satisfaction of the architect. Yeah, or to the set or in a manner to get the site in working condition. Yeah, is this clear to everybody? Again, you will go to the measurement sheet, and perhaps you'll give the length and breadth of your site. Again, it will be the area, and perhaps you will give the area here. Okay, and it can be cross-checked. Is this clear to everybody?
We
Yeah?
don't specify how many people.
No, why?
That's up to the contractor.
That's up to the contractor to do that. No. If you want to do something with regards to people, then usually you give here. Suppose you want 100 people to work, providing for labor, and then you actually want 100 people to work. Okay. Then you write here 100 and then you give here, then you write numbers, 100 person. Okay. Or you give 100 man hours. Are you getting it? You can always write that. That is also not an issue. Nothing is an issue. As far as you know what you are expecting, nothing is an issue. Okay. So if you are expecting labor and you want to pay per labor, then you write 100 man hours. That means 100 men will 100 over so there may be 30 men working for over 3 days. Yeah. Or there may be 100 men working in for 1 day. It all depends. Or there may be 20 men working for 5 days. It is that, and it comes down to your understanding whether that is right or wrong. Okay, like I usually give carpentry in man hours. If I do carpentry repairs or if I get carpenters, then I give so many man hours, because I know that a pair of carpenters over a week will actually be minimum 7, yeah, 7 twos are 14, so 14, 15 man hours. If I write that, then they understand that they have to quote for daily man hours of a carpenter that is there. Come on, let's see who's going next. Next, next Vatsal. After ground clearing, what do you think we should be doing on site? After ground clearing, what would we be doing on site?
Leveling the site, maybe.
You want to level the site. Okay. How would you level the site? Is your
The
site
help
requires leveling? Presently, your site requires leveling.
No.
Then why will you do leveling? Okay. If your site requires leveling, you know how it is. Just now we just spoke about it. Yeah. So much providing for machinery. Yeah. Providing for a JCP. Yeah. To level the site. Yeah. To the so to say contours that are given in the drawing. Yeah. Based on the drawing, you will write that, and you will write, and then you will go again in the measurement sheet, and depend upon how much cutting and filling you want to do. It will be in volume. Yeah, leveling of site will be in volume. So the length of the area you want to cut, the breadth of the area, and the height of the area. The 3 areas that you cut, the volume of the mud that you want to cut and spread will be in volume, and you will give that in volume. Clear? Yeah. Beyond that, Vatsal, what would you do? Once your site is level, everything is done, then what would you do?
Or draw on the site the building footprint.
Okay. So now what you're getting to is what they are called as doing a setting out or marking the center line of your project. Is that right? Everybody knows about that? Has everybody heard about that? You will mark out your project on site, but for that there is no payment. Okay. So there is nothing in the contract document that is there for that. Okay. So how you mark out the site on plan is something that we are going to come to. Yeah. Is something that we are going to explain to you perhaps next time. Yeah. Of how to set out your drawing on site and things like that. Yeah. I think some people have already, I do not know if some people have already know how the setting out of the site of the project is done or not, but we will come to that setting out of the drawing. But most important of all, yeah, drawing of your footprint on site or marking out the center line on your site is not something that is mentioned in the tender document, and not that you're going to be marked for. The next item that you're going to be marked that you can bill for or go for is excavation for your footings. Yeah, excavation for your footings. So Vatsal, can you go about giving us a description of how you would write for excavation of footings, excavation of the ground. Yeah, Vatsa.
Providing machinery and labor for excavating the grounds up till the certain amount,
Certain
such
level,
that
perfect,
certain
perfect.
level,
Yes. So you have to
certain levels.
understand, everybody has to understand that for excavation, there are two types of rates. Okay. The first type of the excavation is where you dig not very deep. Okay. Like most of you all are going to be digging for a basement that is going to be very deep, deep digging. Okay. Basement height is 2.4. You will dig another half an hour, another half or 1 more meter. You are going to dig as good as 3.5 meters below the ground. 2 to 3.5 meter, 3 to 3.5 meters below the ground. That digging is really deep. Okay, that digging is really deep. You need, as Vatsal rightly said, you need machinery, and the rate for that digging is a different thing. Some people do not have a basement, or some people whose building, the part of the building that does not go into the basement, will have normal foundation where your digging is barely 2 meters below the ground. Yeah, where you dig only 2 meters below the ground, for that also you may need machinery, but the rate may be not different, but you have to mention that excavating the ground up to 2 meters, up to 3.5 meters. Now the two rates, and you have to write also both separately. You have to make one slot for 2 meters, one separate slot for 3.5 meters. Yeah, and what else you will write? Excavating up to that level. Then what else more to be ensured of? When one does dig below the ground, what has he to be ensured of?
To get the water out.
Yeah, so no, but before the water is to make sure that the soil does not fall in. Okay, in order the soil not to fall in, you ensure that you have done, what is that called, Neeraj? You have any idea what is they called? They do to keep not to for the soil not to fall off. And I'm missing that word.
Shuttering.
No, it's not shuttering. No, no, it's not shuttering.
Trenching, but there is one more word. Wait, I'll just.
Trench, nahi, nahi.
Strutting.
No,
Embankment.
no, that's not an embankment. Somehow I just skipped my, just not remembering today. Yeah. So you usually do, it's like a shuttering. It's like a shuttering, but it is called, what do they do in the gutters to keep the gutter? It is called, that's a nice word.
Embankment.
No, it's not embankment. It's a kind of a shuttering they do in order to make sure, yeah, that the mud does not fall off is one aspect. Okay, I'll get the word, I'll let you know. The other is that you do dewatering. If you go 3.5 meters below the ground, you are bound to get subsoil water to there, and so you have to do dewatering in order to keep the foundation area dry, such that you can then lay your foundations, that is there. Yeah, yeah, so clear. So that's two aspects of excavation for foundation. Yeah, first aspect is where you dig only for footings and not for the basement, and where you dig only 2 meters deep. Okay, so it will be like excavating with the use of machinery 2 meter deep for footings, isolated foundations. Okay, with aspects to ensure non-collapse of mud, which is that word that I'm missing out, and dewatering such that foundation processes can proceed. The other one is with the same kind of description, but with the height of 3.5 meters. Once that is done, is anybody aware what is the next process? Once you have gone below the ground, what would you do?
Oh, what about digging for sanitary lines and electrical conduits? Does that also take place now?
that is all part of the same process.
Okay.
That is also all part of the same process. Bhushan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Bhushan, once the digging in the trench is done, what do you think actually will happen at the foundation, at the trench level?
The next process will be the plastering process, the waterproofing.
Or what? Or plastering of what?
The waterproofing.
Or what?
Uh,
Waterproofing of what?
मतलब जो जमीन के नीचे वाला पानी है वो ऊपर नहीं आ सके, मतलब जो हमने एक्सकेवेशन किया है वहाँ पे पानी ना भर सके.
So you will lay the PCC, no? You will lay
Yeah.
some kind of PCC, no? Use the right word, huh? There is a PCC. Now, but before that, I missed out for the foundation trenching. Yeah, please understand, for every area that you dig, you will have to give the length, the breadth, the height, and the quantity of mud will be calculated in cubic meters. All excavation material will be calculated in cubic meters. You know why I am doing this? Because right up to the plinth quantification you have to submit on the 11th of August. That's why I am literally started with your bill of quantity. Okay, so people who may be taking it easy, who are not paying attention, God bless you. I have actually started calculating. I have finished the item of barricading. I have finished the item of site clearing. If someone has leveling, we have spoken about leveling. Then we have now spoken about shallow excavations and deep excavations, that is 2-meter deep excavations, 3.5-meter excavations, and now we are starting with foundations. For foundations, okay.
What's the word shoring, Jimmy?
Shoring,
Wait,
yes, yes,
sure.
yes. Shoring, sorry. Shoring is the right word. Shoring is a process in order to ensure that the area that you have dug, the mud doesn't fall in. So it's literally like shuttering. There are planks that are put and there are members that are put in order to make sure that as and when you are doing the work, the mud does not fall in and does not spoil your work or does not, so you may lay PCC, very expensive cement concrete work, and then your mud would fall on it and it would just take away. So especially when you have thin, narrow, long trenches like those in gutters, okay, you need to do shoring, otherwise they tend to collapse, and when they collapse, they cause more damage than good. Yeah? So shoring is the word. And don't forget, when you do excavation, similarly you have to make a measurement sheet. Okay. Now remember here, the serial number that you write here and the serial number that you write here in the bill of quantities, the two have to match. Otherwise, it may become difficult to know what in the measurement sheet, it may be difficult to know this is the item of what. And here you don't need to write the entire specification. Here you may just write shallow excavation. Here you may just write shallow excavation, length into breadth into height, volume. But you may have so many such there. Perhaps you may have one big pit. For the basement, you may have one big pit. It may be length, breadth, and height, and that's it. But then you may have some additional footings that you may do, and that may go down here, and you may have some perhaps 10 different footings that are outside the purview of the building or outside the purview of the basement. And you may write 10 here, and those may be small length, small breadth, small height, small volume. You will add that and then you'll put it in the bill of quantity. But the number 5 here will correspond to the number 5 here. So in that sense, all the numbering that happens in the bill of quantities will always match with that of the it will always match with the measurement sheet of the BOQ. Yeah, I hope I'm not going too fast and it's very clear. So
Jimmy, what
Bhushan,
if my footprint is not a rectangle? Like if I have a circular base or if I have a triangular base, then LBH करके we do multiple squares, we imagine it as, or we imagine it as a
you have to work it out.
regular formula.
See, you're working on AutoCAD. So sometimes what has happened, sometimes when you can directly find out the area. Okay. Suppose you have a circle, no? So you do on CAD, you mark the circle. Yeah. You find the area of the circle, directly enter the circle here, area of the circle, give the height, volume, you will know immediately.
So it doesn't have to be like length. It doesn't have to be a rectangular fit.
Not necessary all the time. Sometimes it's a trapezoid. You may not know the how to calculate that of a trapezoid. Just measure the trapezoid on plan. Write the area of the trapezoid here. Write the height that is here. You will get the volume. Clear? Clear?
Thank you.
Bhushan, now you will do PCC, right? You are going to lay PCC, right? So what? How will you? What is the description you will write for PCC?
Sorry, Jimmy, I have a question regarding to the last thing you said about the
हाँ
number.
बोलो.
So, as you're saying that the measurement column needs to have the same numbering as the BOQ. So, for
Right.
example, you are saying that for excavation, first thing is a bigger cuboidal excavation which we are doing, and then excavation for smaller footings which are separate. So,
Yeah.
both of them will have the same number.
Serial number is one only.
One, okay. And in BOQ, it will so that it corresponds to the excavation part.
Yes, Tanvi. Yes.
Thank you.
That serial number is only to help you correlate your bill of quantity with the measurement sheet. Otherwise, what happens in the bill of quantity? It is number 3. There it is number 7. You cannot correlate. And remember, your faculty is only going to look not at your bill of quantity. Please remember, your faculty is the one who is going to check your measurement sheet, because the faculty will say, Chalo, let us see the size of your basement. In drawing, he will see it is 7 by 5. He will not go to see 35 in your bill of, he is not going to see 35 in the bill of quantities. He is going to go into the measurement sheet to see whether your basement is of 3 by 5 and height another 3.5, and then see what is the area of volume of the mud that you are excavating in order to make the basement. Are you? So
Yeah.
your measurement sheet, this is for everybody. Your measurement sheet has to be perfect, because faculty is going to be checking mostly measurement sheet. The figure of the measurement sheet is further going to be transferred to the bill of quantity. In the bill of quantity, the faculty is going to check the specification, whether the specification is rightly written. So the computation of the area is going to be seen in the measurement sheet. The writing of the specification is going to be seen in the bill of quantity. Clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Chalo, Bhushan, help me write the specification for laying of PCC.
Okay.
I'm waiting.
Actually, I'm confused. So
What is
it
that
will be
bit?
like this. Yeah,
It
it
is
will be
written.
like the
आपके
third
सामने
option.
दिख रहा है ना तुम्हारे तो दिख
Yeah,
रहा है.
yeah, yeah.
Providing and laying of PCC. What is usually the ratio of PCC? Are you aware? What is the ratio of PCC that is required?
1:4:8.
Okay, perfect. It can be either 1:4:8 or 1:3:6, either of the two. Yeah. So either 1:4:8 or 1:3:6. What thickness will you lay the PCC?
Up to 25 mm.
25 mm? 25 mm टाइल लगाने के लिए मोटर डालते हैं भाई. 150 mm.
Okay.
6 inch minimum, 6 inch, 150 mm. Okay, PCC is never, PCC is somewhere between 100 and 150 mm laid always. Yeah. So 150 mm. So providing and laying of 150 mm, 1:3:6. So 1:4:8 ratio PCC. Yeah. Laid at a slope, with appropriate curing, etc. Yeah, what is curing? You know what is curing? Bhushan, are you aware what is curing?
No, I don't know.
अभी तक मैंने 3 बार ये शब्द वापरा है, तो आपने कभी पूछा क्यों नहीं कि क्योरिंग किसको कहते हैं? प्लास्टर को क्योरिंग करते हैं, मालूम है कि नहीं? आप इतना रिस्पॉन्स वाजपेयी जी की तरह इतना लेट क्यों दे रहे हैं? फटाफट बात करो ना मेरे साथ, मेरे पास पूरा दिन नहीं है आपके साथ बात करने के लिए. What is curing? Are you aware what is curing to plaster?
It is like a
Plaster
process of watering the plaster.
Exactly. Why is it done? प्लास्टर होने के बाद आगे के 6-7 दिन उसको पानी मारा जाता है, बराबर है?
Yeah.
क्यों किया जाता है ऐसा?
To avoid the cracks and
to avoid the cracks. Cement is an cement works is an exothermic process. जब आप सीमेंट का काम पानी से करते हैं तो heat is let out. That heat, if it is let out if it is not slowed down, if that heat removal process is not slowed down, then there will be cracks in the cement works which will destroy your work, or which is not helping your work. That's why it is necessary that you constantly water newly done concrete works such that the heat is taken off gradually and that there are no cracks. So all works where cement concrete is, or cement is to be used, you will end the description by saying with curing complete. If you see here, yeah, with curing complete, it is written here in this last paragraph. Yeah, so here you see for cement plaster and it is for curing complete. Okay, so once he has laid the PCC, what are we going to do?
Jimmy, for the earth ramming and rubble soling, do we need to mention anything in the bill of quantities?
Yes, if you are doing that, you please mention it.
So how do
Yes,
you mention
Shravan.
it as? So we mention it as area, right? And
Yes.
rubble soling maybe height.
Yes, rubble soling may be in volume, ramming may be in just area. Yes. Anything
And
that you are aware of and you may be doing. Not all projects do ramming and rubber soling. Okay. Most of the time, yes. Most of the time you dig deep enough such that you have reached hard strata. So it may not be necessary that every time you do rubble soling. But if you intend to do rubble soling, there is nothing wrong in order to create a good surface for your concrete to be laid on. If that is the case, you can mention that. Can we go ahead? What is the next step on the PCC that is laid for your footing? You will cast your footing. Yeah, you will cast your footing. So who's going to be giving me the, so PCC someone tell, भाई कहाँ गए? भूषण मेरे बोलो PCC किस में आएगा? What is the dimension you will fill for PCC? तो कितने ऐसे जो, हाँ?
Square meter.
Square meter नहीं आएगा, volume आएगा भाई. PCC is always going to be measured in length, breadth and height. Height is going to be 150 यानी it will be written as 0.15. बराबर है? Everything is going to be measured in meters. 150 mm is 0.15 in height, length and breadth in meters. So you will get volume in square cubic meter. बराबर है? And depending, now you have how many footings? As per the number of footings, accordingly your sizes will change. Suppose you have large footings. Suppose you have 5 large footings, 7 small footings, various types of footings. The numbers will come here and volumes of the PCC will come there. Clear? Bhushan, is it clear?
Yeah.
I hope it is clear to everybody. By Tejas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Tejas, can you give me a description for casting of RCC isolated footings?
Yeah, so after the PCC is laid, I think for the for the formwork of there should be shuttering for the ICC footing that should be provided.
Yeah, but there is no use. Yeah, so there is no separate cost for shuttering. So actually first the metal is laid, metal works are laid, but for metal works we make a separate column. I will come to metal works a little later, but actually the metal mesh is laid, barabar hai? And your and the bars, column bars are also put in place. But all this description about all this description about what do I say, metal works, I will come
Hmm.
to a little later. Yeah, we will talk to you about later because there is a way of calculating it. You may not be in a position to calculate it now. That's what I'm not talking about. First we are talking about this foot, or we are talking about this isolated pad. Yeah, how will I go with this isolated pad? Actually does requires very minimal shuttering. It is only this side, it is only this side shuttering that is laid to fill, in order to fill this pad. Yeah, it is not
Yeah.
much shuttering that is done, and then the concrete is sloped off. So can you tell me how will you write the specification of this concrete shuttering? This concrete foot, just the foot.
Yeah, so then it would be like
providing and providing and laying of
providing and laying of RCC.
no earth. You will write, yeah, for RCC you will write the mix. According to you, what is the kind of mix that is required for RCC, for an RCC structure?
I think it's 1 is to 1.5 is to 3.
बराबर है, perfect. 1 is to 1.5 is to 3 is the perfect RCC mix considering the new seismic code where we have for RCC structures. You all are good, yeah. I'm really surprised. That means at the lower year your construction has been done well. You all are all talking about the right ratios. So yes, 1 is to 1.5 is to 3 is the RCC mix for RCC structures in especially our subcontinent where our seismic zone is usually 3 and 4. Yes, so providing and laying of concrete 1 is to 1.5 is to 3 concrete with appropriate admixtures and and thorough compacting, you know, thorough compacting, you know what thorough compress, you must have seen they put vibrators. Have you
Yeah,
ever seen they put vibrators in order to make sure that your concrete does not remain hollow and it gets compacted? Yeah, and laid to slope and cured as instructed. Right? This is the
right.
kind of specification you will. I hope everybody is writing because on the 11th of August, your 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 technology guides will ask you for a building bill of quantities for your own project, yeah, whereby the specification has to be rightly written as well as the measurement sheet for your own project has to be made. Yeah, once the footing is made, something is comes out which is called as the stub column. Yeah, it's not the entire column that comes out. It is the column that comes up only up to the plinth. Tanvi, can you tell me how would you give the description for the stub column?
Providing and laying of 1 is to 1.5 is to 3 ratio concrete for the
For
stump column with
with
with yeah,
appropriate shuttering. Now the stub columns require appropriate shuttering, right? So with
yeah,
appropriate shuttering
up to the
and
height, whatever height it needs to be.
so
Or
you
to
now need, yes, so now you all need to calculate this height. So you now know the depth that is there, and now you need to, now you know the height, the height of the plinth that may be there, whatever that may be there, and accordingly you will give the height of the stub column that may be there. Now, there is something that I missed. In case you all have a raft below, yeah, it is not going to be any different. In case of a raft, you will have the entire length, entire width, and entire depth. The depth will be a constant 450 to 600. The length and width of the raft may be as per the size of your basement. There's nothing to worry about. Be it a small footing or be it a large raft. The way of calculating concrete does not change. The rate will change drastically. Why will the rate change drastically? Because the raft footing is casted at a, look at the height at which the footing is casted in this photograph to my right. Barely anything. Yeah, if you look at it, a person can easily step down. This is like 2 meters below the ground, 6 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet below the ground. For a raft, it is going to be 3-4 meters below the ground. There is constant water coming in. So all the time there is going to be constant, so to say, there is going to be constant dewatering process. There is going to be all kinds of efforts for waterproofing. Okay, there is going to be a lot of shuttering involved. In that case, the rate for a raft will be different. The rate for a footing will be different. But the process of calculating the area or the volume for that remains the same. Yeah, clear? Clear to everybody? I hope it is clear to everybody. Yes, Tanvi, go ahead. So how will you then, so in the measurement sheet, Tanvi,
Yeah.
in the measurement sheet, what will we see here? How many columns? All those columns of the same size will be put here in numbers. The length of the column, the width of the column, the height of the column. Yeah, so that's the cross section. The length and the breadth will give you the cross section of the column. The height of the column will give you the height of the stub column, and the volume will be, the concrete will be calculated in volume. Yeah, calculated, concreted in volume. The last of the lot will be the slab. Last of the lot is going to be the slab. Okay. Can I now, is these people Rohanshu here?
I don't think Rohanshu is continuing the course because
Okay, no problem. No problem. So, Govindam, are you there?
Yeah.
Govindam, come on, Govindam. Now tell me, we will now, once the columns come up to the stub level, I will be casting the first slab, which will also be making the plinth of my building. Barabar hai?
Yeah.
Okay, which is also making the plinth of my building. Give me the specification for casting a slab at the ground level. Yeah, come on. Already 2 people have spoken about how the specification for concreting is done.
Yeah, so providing a certain area of slab for
No, certain area, aisa nahi. Providing and laying of, what is the mix of the concrete? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. What is the mix of the concrete for a slab?
So it's like cement, waters, fine aggregates, and like stone, coarse aggregates.
What is the ratio? We just spoke about the ratio earlier.
It's 1:3:6.
No. Were you there in the lecture earlier, 5 minutes back?
Oh, sorry, 1:3:6 is for PCC cement. Ratio of concrete will be 1:2:4.
No, that is also not right. Just 5 minutes back, we discussed RCC mix. What is the RCC mix for slabs and all concrete RCC works? Were you there 5 minutes before when we were discussing this project, when we are discussing all this?
Yeah, I was there.
Then how come you're not knowing what we have discussed? Barely 2 minutes back we have discussed. 2 people have already spoken till now. What should be the concrete mix for RCC?
Um, is it like is it 1:4:8?
When do you want to make the concrete weaker, or do you want to make the concrete stronger when you cast slabs?
It's strong.
You want to make strong. So which is stronger, 1:2:4 or 1:4:8?
1:2:4.
1:2:4. Then why will you give me a slab with 1:4:8, which is a PCC mix I'm not interested in that. So we have just discussed that no RCC work is less than 1:1.5:3. Didn't you pay attention? Couple of minutes back, were you there on the, or you had gone somewhere else?
No, I was the only. I was the only.
Then how you missed it? Two people already spoke about it, if I'm not mistaken. Tanvi spoke about it, and someone else also did speak about it. Tejas, if I'm not mistaken. Tejas and Tanvi both spoke about it. Come on, go ahead. So if I have to providing and laying cement concrete of ratio 1:1.5:3, then further what will you mention for casting of slabs?
Providing and laying 1:2:3 ratio.
1:1.5:3, I said.
1:1.5:3 ratio RCC slab. It will be measured in volume.
Volume.
And,
Why will you write all that? You don't need to write all that.
so
Hello, I'm waiting for you.
yeah,
So you don't need to write it has to be measured in volume.
like for certain areas.
What certain areas? What are you talking?
I'll be writing the thickness of that RCC slab.
Okay, so what is the thickness of an RCC slab? And the RCC slab is cast on what? What is the RCC slab usually cast on?
Thickness will be 7.5 centimeter, I guess.
7.5 centimeter. No slab is cast less than 125 centimeter. And 125 mm. That is 12.5 centimeter. No slab is cast less than that. Okay. No slab is cast than that. So I don't know which slab you get less of 7.5 centimeter. I am really scared of such slabs. And what? Come on, we've discussed all of this. I'm really surprised why you're not able to. You have to talk about, one is the mix of the concrete, second is the thickness of the slab, third is the arrangement made to cast the concrete, and fourth is about its curing. So what is the arrangement made for the slab? How do you cast the slab? What is the arrangement usually made?
Form wooden form.
Yes. So you will write providing and laying of 1:4 to 1:1.5:3 concrete works for a 125 deep slab by providing appropriate shuttering, and then compacting through use of vibrators, curing, etc., to the satisfaction of the architect, or as per structural drawing, anything that is there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then how will you measure the slab? Last of the slab, how will you measure it?
Length, breadth, and height.
Length, breadth, and height to get the volume, and in the thing it will be in cubic meters. Yeah, clear? So let me tell the class. Okay, we have covered let me tell the class, we have covered the aspects of being able to do the bill of quantities up to the plinth level. There are items I have missed. There are items I have missed, and it is not that I have to cover everything. There are maybe waterproofing items. There may be like someone may not be having a basement, then you will have mud fill, dry rubble packing, that may be there. PCC at the upper level, then you may have what is called as damp proof cores. These things are missing. You will now know how to write them. Okay. And your guides will also pinpoint that these are the things that you have to write. But it will start from barricading and end up to plinth is the kind of requirement that you will have for the 11th marking that is there. Before that, we will make sure next time we will show how you are in a position to denote your columns, number your columns, make center lines of your columns and set out your buildings on site. Yeah. Yeah, we will do that. That is preferable. Actually, I think we should have done that first today and done the specification next time, but whatsoever. Nonetheless, we will be in a position to do that. I hope by next time all your column positions and your building is well resolved and how it sits on site. Then myself and Neeraj can help you set the building on site and work out its line out and work out its center lines. Yeah. So I'm done with today's this topic that was there, especially with regards to specification and quantification. Now, if there are people